There's a quote that says, "Those who don't know history are doomed to try to repeat it," or some version of that. And I've always thought that that idea was really powerful. And as a person who taught English at the high school level for almost 30 years, I have looked at literary texts from historical perspectives for a very long time. And outside of just literature, I've read widely about all kind of different historical periods. And sometimes when I look at the, the speeches that are given by politicians, I look at social media, I look at posts that are out in the world, I look at articles that are being published, I look at Project 2025, I look at all these things, I just wonder, have these people studied history? Because some of the things that are being proposed now and have been being proposed for the last several months in this political climate that we're in, they're not new. We've had book bans and book burnings for thousands of years, and they've come into style and gone out of style. And the people who are doing them, don't you realize that they never got rid of the ideas? I mean, going back as far as the Spanish Inquisition and the Crusades, when they were trying to purge the world of all of the different biblical texts that were not considered kosher, that were considered heretical, they just went underground. They didn't get erased from history. You can buy them online on Amazon. They're everywhere. You can even download them just from the internet in PDF form. Book bannings don't work. Book burnings don't work. Trying to keep knowledge away from people who want it, it doesn't work. When people talk about we need a Christian nation where people are following Jesus, we had that. It was called the Dark Ages. When they thought that they knew everything and that everything could be solved by religion, and science was persecuted. I mean, even things like street lights were illegal because the idea was that if the sun was going down, that was God telling you it was time to go to bed. And who are you to want to have street lights and be able to stay up and do things after the sun has gone down? So you can look at trying to push religion on the masses, trying to make it difficult to practice anything but the approved of religion. You can look at that all over the globe and see the results of it. And that, again, it doesn't work. It just causes suffering. It doesn't lead to some utopia, which is what people thought then, thousands of years ago, and what some people somehow think now. It's not going to happen. You can't legislate morality. For thousands of years, people have been trying to make people be moral according to their standard of what moral is. Again, it doesn't work. So I just look at some of the posts and I'm like, we've been here before. This has been done in some form before. And the results were not beneficial. The results most often were chaotic. They led to suffering. They led to torture. They led to death. They led to a lack of progress. After the Dark Ages, which was when the church was squelching and suppressing knowledge and trying to impose its morality on most of the world, on much of the world. After that was overthrown, we had the Renaissance. So this idea that there's some reason and some benefit to repression and suppression and tyranny and taking away people's autonomy and free will and free choice, it's been tried in many places of the world over many different times in history, and it's never went well for the majority of people. So I just don't understand why people still push these ideas. And even with patriarchy, we can look at the world prior to patriarchy in terms of how did people get along? How were families? How were marriages? And in an egalitarian system, in a matriarchal system, things were a lot better in terms of family and society than they have been under patriarchy. So it's kind of, sometimes I'm like, wow, we have all of this knowledge. We live in an information age, but people still somehow want to put on these delusional glasses and see the actions that they're proposing through some kind of haze of belief and faith, rather than say, this has already been done. And here's what it led to. And it wasn't good. So I just hope people think about what they're supporting, because we have an election coming up. And progress is what needs to happen, not regression. So may you walk in synergy. There's a quote that says, those who don't know history are doomed to try to repeat it, or some version of that. And I've always thought that idea was really powerful. And as a person who taught English at the high school level for almost 30 years, I have looked at literary texts from historical perspectives for a very long time. And outside of just literature, I've read widely about all kind of different historical periods. And sometimes when I look at